Are you a digital nomad or thinking about becoming one? If the answer to that question is yes, then you should stay tuned because I'm going to talk about legal compliance requirements that you should be following. Hi, my name is Rasudan. I have been working for Nomad Capitalist for 3 years, and my responsibility is to make sure that we are legally compliant, and we have been helping thousands of people stay legally compliant as well. The current environment of providing more freedom to people means that lots of people are working remotely and lots of people have become digital nomads. So basically this means that you can work for a corporation in Europe and live in Bali or in different country. So this means that you are given lots of freedom, and it means that the way that the work was established has been really rapidly changing, and we see lots of people becoming digital nomads and moving around and enjoying the nomadic lifestyle. But this also means that there are certain compliance requirements that digital nomads need to follow. So you have freedom, but there is certain drawback to it, and it's not even a drawback, it's just certain steps you have to take into consideration before starting on this journey. In this video, we are going to talk about legal compliance requirements that digital nomads need to follow and how to be ready for that. The first thing is you have to think about before moving to a new country is visa requirements. And it's not only just the entry visa requirements, but also do you need to renew it? Do you need to maybe register in this country because you're going to be working from this country? So this is not just a tourist visa and the tourist purpose that you are traveling to this country for. You are going to be working from this country, even if the work that you're doing may not be deemed as delivered in that country. So for example, you are working digitally for a US corporation and you live in Portugal. So you are basically working from Portugal, and you need to make sure that your visa that you are obtaining upon entry allows you to do that. And it's not just like a tourist visa or something like that, because legally this is against the law. So the first thing you need to do is establish what kind of visa you need, what's the application process like, what kind of documents you need, and apply and get the visa. The next thing you need to do is, and it's a very important step, we see people sometimes don't pay attention to those details, is do you need to renew it? Do you need to take additional steps in the future to get it, to make sure that it's valid, to renew it or something like that. One other thing that you also have to think about, because you're working in that country, in certain countries there are requirements for you to either get a license or register in some a agency or something like that. So it's very important to also pay attention to those details so that you are fully legally compliant in the country of your pretty much residence at the moment. The biggest item that you should research about is the tax compliance. So let's say if you live in Portugal and you are working as a digital nomad from Portugal, do you have to pay tax there? So maybe you do not have to pay a tax, but you have to pay some kind of a social security contribution or something like that. So those are small details that you have to be strictly following and being aware of, because there are some tax consequences of being a digital nomad in a certain country. One other concern that you need to be aware of is for your employer, actually, because there are countries where your employer may be deemed having a permanent establishment in the country of your residence because you're working from there. Let's talk about an example. So you are working for an Australian company and you relocated to the UK, and you're basically working as a digital nomad from the UK. But because of the tax regulations in the UK may deem your Australian employer as having a permanent establishment in the UK, and they may ask for the employer to pay tax in the UK. So it's very important for the employer and for you also to be aware of those kind of jurisdictions where just having an employee there is enough to trigger this permanent establishment rules. And it can be about tax, actually paying the tax, or about being compliant and registering something or having some kind of a legal structure in that country and reporting certain things. That's why it's very important to choose the location of where you want to live very carefully, because I don't think that an employer wants to have any kind of a permanent establishment risk for just one person. And there's also nuance there, right? So it really depends on what you're doing actually. Like if you have a very management role, it's even more likely that you will be considered a permanent establishment for your employer. If it's more like a part-time work and you do not really take lots of huge responsibilities, you don't sign things, etc., then maybe there's some loophole there. But essentially, if the country has a permanent establishment rule, there's no way around that. It's just either move to another country or follow the permanent establishment rules, and or just on your own open a legal structure there. So those are very important details that I think that not everybody thinks about when they are actually moving and starting on this digital nomad journey. One other thing that is very important is also in certain countries you have a requirement to have like a health insurance or some kind of other social contributions to the country or different agencies of the country, because you are basically living there, and if anything happens, the country is responsible for you to a certain extent. So those are also things that you should have a plan for to make sure that you are compliant. If you have more questions about legal compliance for digital nomads, you can go to nomadcapitalist.com, subscribe, and watch more videos on our channel.